It's no longer trendy to sell trends. Over the last generation, a new aesthetic or core emerged seemingly every week.
How to just like an office iron without...
How to achieve the gremlin core aesthetic.
First up, we got bloke core.
So what is gore core?
You guys really love the soft boy aesthetic?
Achieve the old money
We're
style.
going to be creating an opium type fit.
The microtrend trend is over. What's cool now is selling your wardrobe and focusing on personal style and timeless fashion. What does this clothing look like? Is it just another excuse for influencers and retailers to sell us a new genre of fashion, or is there something genuinely useful that we can take away here? This is AC Cable here. Why is everyone so obsessed with timeless fashion? It shouldn't come as a surprise that all trends have their day. We saw this more than ever with these short-lived online fashion trends that have come and gone over the past few years. What's key is online. Many of these were born, proliferated, reported on exclusively online. Does that mean they weren't real? No, quite the opposite. The internet has grown so large, so essential feeling to our lives, that it feels more real than stepping outside. If I wear a nice outfit, a couple of hundred people might see it in person, but if a reel pops off, hundreds of thousands, maybe more. My caveman brain did not evolve for that amount of feedback on my fit check. And for most of us, the way that we consume fashion content, learn about fashion, is through a smartphone. Our access to fashion content and information is huge, but it's also caused a disparity between influencers and fashion fans. For influencers, clothing is the means of creating content. The more they can put out, the more chances they have to grow an audience and be successful. If that clothing is outrageous and unsuitable for the real world, it doesn't really matter. It is intended for online consumption, and often the weirder and the wackier stuff drives more engagement. The more successful they are, the more wild engagement farming outfits they can build, until eventually what people are wearing online no longer reflects what people wear in reality. The big red boots, I think, were a cultural turning point here. Mischief laid bare the ridiculousness of dressing for an online world, spending $400 on something nearly impossible to wear unless you had the kind of larger-than-life wardrobe likely only fashion influencers would enjoy. But it was something seemingly everyone was wearing for 2 weeks. Hundreds of millions of impressions overall. How many times did you actually see someone in the real world with those boots on? Or even someone who wasn't a content creator or celebrity. Whether that was your wake-up moment or something else, you probably got sick of influencer-only, hyper-real fashion. Your feed was poisoned, you needed the antidote. Our first dose was quiet luxury, on the surface a fetishization of upper-class life and the uniforms of old money and generational wealth. A trend showing aspirational images of beautiful people driving, sailing, picnicking, watching sport, and ironically one that became just as replicated as every other microtrend, to the point Shein had a quiet luxury section on their website, and you can currently shop old money aesthetics on Boohoo with £20 polo shirts that are definitely not a knockoff of Aimé Leon Dore. But quiet luxury didn't just take hold because everyone had just finished watching Succession. It started something, some kind of cultural change or shift that brings us to today's fashion landscape, utterly on its head from years prior. People are tired of chasing the hottest new piece to scoop up engagement, a trend that only influencers have been able to play. We need a reassurance that clothing, both culturally and physically, is going to last. What's getting traction now is content about selling clothing, committing to buying less, investing in the classic, the timeless. And yes, I put a blazer on just to do this bit, so let's change back. Timeless fashion is the new obsession. There are two main qualities people are after: product quality and garment story. Together, those can be packaged up and sold as trend immune or timeless clothing. I've picked up two things recently which perfectly showcase this and have enjoyed some level of popularity recently. The Paraboot Michael and the Mersby Schwannen loop wheel tee. People are quick to talk about the physical quality of these pieces. The Paraboot Michael using this beautiful deer leather, which smells really good, by the way. The Norwegian stitching, a traditional way of creating a watertight seal. The care in making each shoe to an exacting specification. And the Mersby Schwannen tee, 100% organic cotton spun on loop wheelers, giving these things no side seams. Both of these have undeniable physical qualities, which people say will make you want to keep wearing them year after year. That isn't enough by itself though. We want the story behind the clothing. We want the reassurance that it's actually gonna stay cool. For Paraboot, it's the family-owned business, produced in France, the Michael being a 70-year-old design. If it survived so long, how could it possibly go out of style next season? And yes, the Mersby Schwannen tees have shot into public consciousness by their feature in the Bear, a fact that they put on their website, which is a little bit cringe to me. But hey, gotta capitalize on this stuff. I got the black one anyway because I had to be unique. But the reason that people are interested in this tee and its feature is because it is this enduring design. It is made by these exacting traditional methods. And the slightly shrunken fit hailing back to the mid-century where people would have worn tees like this as an undergarment rather than an outer layer. It's certainly a very different fit to what I'm used to. Let me know what you think of the look though. In terms of construction, a lot of people have talked about that side of things already, but I certainly can't fault it. The little gusseted underarms, it's like techwear before techwear. Look, there's an obvious aesthetic difference between products like this and the kind of stuff that was popular under microtrend culture. Clearly, it's not about scroll-stopping visuals anymore. It is about something that has this tangible quality that feels like it's made to last, that has a value beyond what you see immediately. It's clothing which both physically lasts because it is made from the right materials, it is constructed in the right way, and culturally lasts because it has already stood the test of time. It has a history behind it. It can't go from cool to uncool in a matter of weeks. People suggest you invest now and this will be with you for years. You need a lot less clothing to build out a great looking wardrobe over time. It's like consumption in the name of underconsumption. How else are people engaging in so-called timeless fashion? Well, vintage clothing has one part to play. Inevitably, old clothing has a story attached and has to have some level of quality. After all, it's survived the test of time. I think the garment story concept extends to retailers too, and clothing stores who can present more curated collections of selected brands and pieces, ones which have that particular viewpoint they want to get across, and just ones which have an eye for quality. They all stand to gain in this kind of environment. And I'm very pleased to say that this video's paid sponsor fits pretty nicely into that category. And I got to pick out some of their new stuff to talk about. Huckberry are a multi-brand US-based retailer with a really consistent aesthetic and curated brand selection. Double RL, Carhartt, Paraboot, the Mersby Schwannen tee we were looking at earlier was from them, and a bunch of stuff I've been a fan of for years, like Hoka, Asics, and G-Shock. They also have multiple in-house brands which take that same approach of forgetting about trends in favor of providing a good product. Proof is one. They're quite performance-focused and they do these merino tees which make great base layers. I've worn tees like this for years. They're comfy, they look good, and they're naturally odor resistant, unlike your standard nylon sports tops. For activewear, this look is undeniably a classic. There's a tiny bit of nylon in here to improve durability if you're going to be washing and wearing these for years, and you get two for $140, so it's one of the more affordable merino tee options. Now, let's take a look at another example. Flint and Tinder are closer aesthetically to this timeless fashion concept. SS25 is very heritage Americana vibes. Hard-wearing natural fabrics, just take a look at their Selvage Reserve denim, 13-ounce Japanese fabric, boot cut, limited to 150 pieces, plenty of attention to detail from the edge to the leather-backed rivets to the bar tacks. Even the fabric itself has this beautiful texture. Can we stop this, please? It's interrupting my filming. Selvage denim, of course, perfectly represents the timeless trend. They are literally intended to be worn day in, day out for years to develop that personal fade. The polar opposite to microtrend fashion, these gain physical and cultural value the more you wear them over a long period of time, so they actively incentivize you to buy fewer pants. I find Western and Americana motifs quite interesting, particularly with how popular Japanese Americana is now. So I was drawn to the Southwestern flannel with a super nice pattern, and again, the physical garment feels really nice, particularly as it's pre-washed, whilst feeling really substantial. Definitely feels like something that could be worn in quite a playful way, used with lots of layers, other colors, mixing it up. A bit different to what I would normally do, but it's definitely a path I'm interested in going down. It's the right time for this type of clothing to gain popularity in fashion circles, and I like that the site is linked to more than clothing. It's not just high quality gear and homeware, but content on adventure, style, and more. It's a branded, authentic feeling space and not just something that's going to rebrand every 6 months to keep up with the latest trend. I really like that, and this is going to be a long-term partnership, so I'm really excited to check out some more stuff from Huckberry. So have a look on the site. If there's anything you think I should cover, then let me know. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I've got my eye on. Everything I picked up will be linked in the description. Again, massive thanks to Huckberry for being paid sponsors of the video. One of the good things about this timeless trend is it doesn't have to look a certain way because of that focus on physicality and story. So the acronym P55 that I picked up recently, I think are a really nice bridging point for me. They still have that technical design stuff. You got the full length vent, you got the carabiner, you got a few other parts, but being made of 100% cotton instead immediately removes it from that purely technical futuristic space into one where natural fabrics are a little bit more paid attention to. Similarly, I was sent this scarf by Somewhere Good, literally the name of the brand. What drew me to this is the intersection of futuristic typographic-based design and this nice neon yellow color with a focus on materials and quality. This is made by a family-owned business in the UK from Italian lamb's wool, and that means if the design resonates with you, as it does for me, you probably know I like pretty much anything futuristic, you can bring this out season after season because of that core material quality. That's never going to go away. I even think Post Archive Faction's latest collection engages with this idea as well. Look, they're mixing cotton into their traditional technical fabrics and using these kinds of color palettes and patterns that you'd associate more with tradition than the future. The 8.0 Right jacket has an almost shirt-like quality for exactly that reason, and the matching 8.0 pants, well, these are rooted in a classic flat-fronted chino design, but have these little post-archive faction elements in there, which gives the pants identity whilst leaving them wearable for many seasons. For that reason, expect to see me wearing this stuff for the rest of this year and future years. Look, I'm talking pretty positively about this idea of timeless fashion, I think because my personal experiences with all of this stuff have been pretty good. I've picked up clothing which I like that happens to have this timeless dimension to it, rather than specifically seeking out timeless clothes. Despite that, I want to analyze a bit closer because I think we need to be careful if we are going to buy into this timeless fashion idea. Timelessness is suddenly a very timely thing to talk about, with lots of people selling us specific items like paraboots or loop-wheeled tees with the justification that they are trend immune in fundamentally the same way that influencers sold us microtrends. How are we to know that timeless fashion will indeed continue to be cool? Because if everyone rushes out to buy the top 10 most timeless fashion items, surely those things will become oversaturated and uncool.
Mersby Schwanen 215 loop wheel t-shirt by Mersby Schwanen.
Mersby Schwanen.
The Mersby Schwanen 215 classic tee.
I'm sure lots of you will already have seen fashion MFs talk about these kinds of items. You will probably see them talk about it again. How many times until you get completely sick of it? I think we need to take the guiding principles, looking at product quality, looking at garment story, without buying into exactly the same items everybody seems to be owning and recommending. The other question we must ask ourselves, does timeless fashion exist at all?
If we go back 10 years, things described as timeless wouldn't have been seen the same way. Who was wearing loafers then? Who was wearing shrunken fit tees? Who was wearing oversized pants where skinny jeans were the thing to wear? We want the opposite of microtrend. Yes, the opposite of micro isn't timeless, it's macro. A macrotrend is a slow, wide cultural shift that takes place over a longer period of time, giving these things the appearance of timelessness. You can point back to times in the past where they've also been cool, but there's still these changing periods of coolness and uncoolness. Straight-fitting pants aren't timeless. At one point, skinny fit was cooler. Shrunken fit tees aren't timeless because oversized was cooler. Not even 100% natural fabrics are timeless because 10 years ago, in the age of athleisure, wearing nylon stuff was kind of cooler. Whatever we buy inevitably has its place in changing trend cycles, and that's okay. We don't necessarily have to pay attention to them. I've got plenty of things in my wardrobe which are not necessarily on trend in any way, but I still take pleasure in them. But I think it's timeless is not a good justification in itself to buy something, so you should be careful of that kind of terminology being used in marketing at the moment. Even fashion content creators saying, I bought this thing, it's so timeless, I'm going to wear it forever. They're not necessarily being malicious here, but I think they're confusing timelessness with the natural progression of macro trend cycles.
Let's return to the original question. Why? Why is it so timely to talk about timelessness? I think we've covered one potential idea already of it being sold as the solution to microtrends. The one-upmanship, crazier and crazier outfits can only be interesting for so long. I think everyone's sick of it now. And who hasn't been burned buying some expensive fashion item only for it to feel like everybody's moved on a month later? That kind of environment only really works if it's your job to buy and wear clothing. It feels a lot healthier to get excited and obsessed about something that feels like it's going to stay cool for a very long time. But it goes culturally further. In an age of microtrends and terminally online fashion, the coolest thing you can be is offline. Quality, timeless clothing demands that you experience it in person. You have to feel the material, and only salvage denim fans who are genuinely wearing their stuff day in, day out will unlock its true value. People who are sticking them on for 10 minutes in their bedroom will never get that. You cannot buy your way into that kind of authenticity. See how fashion content is starting to shift from people showing off a bunch of outfits in their bedroom to people showing outfits in the real world while they're doing something. Brand lookbooks are changing in this way too. The marketing shows this is the clothing for having real experiences. It's no coincidence that timeless fashion inspiration shows us a world before smartphones and modern technology. I feel people are becoming more aware than ever of the societal harm that all that stuff is doing. Media like adolescence is just the latest thing that's reminding us of that. The thought of being away from that world seems seems a lot cooler. And I think that's at least partly the reason why the quiet luxury aesthetic had more cultural impact than the various other microtrends. It's also cooler to be a nerd, to care about a hobby not just at a superficial level, but something that goes a little bit deeper. Timeless clothing allows that depth because it gives us something to talk about and obsess over. Just listen to anyone talk about a topic like selvage denim. There are so many things, from the fabric weight, the country of production, the way that it was made, the fiber length, the special details that make each model unique. You can take that approach far more effectively with this kind of clothing than microtrend driven stuff that's intended to be worn a few times and then forgotten about. The economic landscape comes into play too. When we're financially uncertain, we want to be able to buy into things which have a proven value and ability to last. Timeless quality clothing promises to do exactly that. It is more utilitarian than it is frivolous. It's a lot easier to justify when we want to treat ourselves to something a little bit nicer. And this is a huge topic, but I also wonder if there's a link between growing cultural conservatism and fashion conservatism, glamorizing less flamboyant clothing and trad-adjacent aesthetics. Although timeless fashion doesn't chase a specific look, we do see a lot of denim, western wear, boots, military-influenced garments, all things we associate with toughness, masculinity, the uniform of work. I can't really speak with authority on that topic. I feel like it would require a lot more research, but it is something that's crossed my mind. Ultimately, I think the desire for tangible qualities, for authentic stories, for clothing wearable in the real world is a good thing, and it's definitely something we can enjoy if we're applying that to the kind of clothes or aesthetics that interest us. Whatever you like, there will be clothing which exhibits some of these timeless qualities, even if the clothing itself is not truly timeless. I'm looking forward to discovering more of that for myself, and I'd love to hear any of your experiences with this type of fashion, whether that be positive or negative. For now, that's all from me on this topic. I will catch you in the next one.